Have you mastered the art of creating a Phormium tenax rose? Perhaps you want to try another leaf manipulation technique. Now, if you love all things flower arranging, crafting with some charity shop shopping thrown in too, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. All you need to do is to tap the red button marked subscribe, and that means next time you open the YouTube app on your phone, your tablet or your computer, one of my videos will be waiting for you. So for this project, you'll need some Phormium tenax leaves and something to tie off with. I like using this bind wire. Watch on to the end of the video and I'll show you how to create this woven ribbon effect. This box concertina style fold, and a trick for finishing off your Phormium rose if you've got yourself in a bit of a muddle. First, you'll need to get yourself a piece of Phormium tenax. I've cut this from my garden. It's quite wide and quite rigid. You can also get thinner varieties and ones that have more colour. So the first thing you need to do is to split your Phormium tenax so you've got something to weave with. But you'll notice if you turn your leaf over that it's almost folded up here and then flattens up further up the leaf. So when you split your leaf, you want to start splitting it where it's starting to have more of a flatter profile. Don't try and separate your leaf into sections right down to the end, because it will be too stiff, too tough to weave, and also it'll make your structure a lot looser. So I'm going to start round about here. If you've got really long fingernails, you'll be able to pierce your nail through and then open up a gap which will separate your Phormium tenax into individual strips. And if you don't have sharp nails, you might want to get your floristry knife out, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by making 6 individual strands to weave with, and I'm just going to estimate these. So 1, 2, and then 3. That's come out on that hard central spine at the back. So if you want to, you can cut that spine out, going all the way down. I tend to leave it in and just make sure it's either sitting centrally within one of your strands or it's the borderline between 2 of them. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then my 6th strand over here. And if you open the strand up carefully, you'll see you can then run your finger or thumb along it to separate out the section. Now your leaf tapers, so although I started off with quite a wide section here, about 1 centimetre, at the end it's just a few millimetres wide. It's quite satisfying to do. But there I have my 6 strands all ready to start weaving with. Have you already seen the video where I made myself a Phormium rose? Well, if you've watched that video or made yourself a rose in the past, that's exactly the same technique I'm going to use here to start with. So I need to start weaving. I need to get this vertical stem to run horizontally through the other sections. And the thing you need to remember is, although we're weaving, the stems are only going to go in one direction. That way, that way, that way. Starting on the outside edge on the right hand side, I will fold that stem across and crease it. So it's making a 90-degree angle and then weave in and out. So what I tend to do is just to manipulate my strands around a bit and going under and over, under and over. And that's my first strand of weaving complete. On with the next one, the outside edge on the right hand side. Fold it across to start, give it a nice crease. That's already gone over that first strand, so underneath, on top and underneath. Your second line's complete. And then we carry on. I've got 3 vertical strands now and 3 horizontal strands which have already been woven. Across again, and make a crease over the first one, under the second one, cross and over. And the next fold you need to make with this last strand is again at that 90-degree angle. Now all 6 strands are coming out in this direction. And now we start weaving again, but this time from the left-hand side. So the first lot of weaving was from the right-hand side. So here we have to create the outside edge again. So bending the leaf, but bending it behind this time. So it's gone under, over, under, over, and that last one there, underneath. And do the same again, starting on the left-hand side, bending underneath, a nice crisp fold, and then start weaving. Two strands woven, 4 to go. Bend underneath, over under. 3 strands done, 3 strands to go. Oh, I went wrong there. Under, over. Five strands woven, 1 left, and that just gets bent over to sit alongside the other woven strands. So here we wove from the right, and here we wove from the left. Let's start at the right again. Bend across, over under, until we reach the other side. From the right again, nice crisp fold. Keep weaving. A crisp fold again, over under. Over, under, over, and this last one, we're just going to fold it so it sits with the others. So you can see that I'm making a nice straight length of ribbon, but it's not quite as straight as you think it is. Let me show you. Here's an unwoven section of the Phormium, and if I lie the 2 on top of each other, you'll see what I mean. My weaving is straight, but it all goes off to one side. So when you're trying to work out what's going on with your own weaving, just remember your ribbon isn't going to be as straight as your original piece of Phormium tenax. It will be straight, but it bends off from the main stem. Right, let's get back to that weaving. So my last lot of weaving was on this right hand side. All my 6 strands are facing upwards, and I'm going to start with the left hand strand, bending it underneath and weaving across. A nice crisp bend, but underneath, not over the top. You can see here that some of these strands have become unwoven. So I just need to put them back where they need to go. Nice crisp bend underneath, over the top, underneath. Underneath, over the top, and underneath, and the last one on its own just gets bent up so it lies straight with the others. And then we continue again, right hand side, crisp bend, and off we go. Crisp bend. Six strands all facing the same way. As your strands get finer, you need to work out how much more weaving you can do. Once you get in the groove, it's quite meditative. But if you need to stop the video and pause it, stop it and pause it until you can find where you are again. And every time you make a piece of ribbon like this, or a Phormium tenax rose, you'll never quite see, they'll never quite be the same. It all depends on the width of your strands, the width and length of your Phormium, and how tight you do your weaving. It's starting to get quite thin now. That's a little bit of variation to the appearance of the band. Line that one up. I think I can probably get one more strand done. So bending that left one. Oh, it's tiny. Bending underneath. And from the left, underneath. From the left, underneath. From the left, underneath, and bend again. So there is my completed length of ribbon. I probably could do one more row, but it's just going to get too fiddly. So I'm going to group my stems together and tie them off with a piece of bind wire. Nice and securely, because as the ribbon dries, it'll shrink a bit, and you don't want your ribbon falling apart. Now I'll leave you with a much easier way of making a ribbon, manipulating a leaf. Just split the whole leaf in half and then fold one side over the other. We're going to do that right hand bend again. I'm imagining a square just here, taking the top piece and bending it towards me. Taking this piece and bending it across at 90 degrees. So it's the same action. Up to down, side to side. Down to up, side to side. across, up, across, down, 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 across, up, across, until you can't go any further. I'm just going to scrunch those two bits up and again tie them off with a little bit of bind wire. And then the whole lot will spring apart like a jack-in-the-box. Just like that. Giving you another interesting shape to incorporate into your next flower arrangement. Now I've been asked for a reminder about how you finish off your Phormium tenax rose. When you've done all your weaving, you end up with quite a square outline, but double layers. It's got a corkscrew effect to it with this little tufty bit at the bottom. So how do you get this tufty bit here to lie down parallel with your stem? Well, the easiest way to think about it is how you would get a pencil to sit down below. And that's where you need to take your tufty bits. They need to go down this plug hole to lie tucked up with the main stem. So you push it downwards. And then you can start manipulating your rose and shaping it, and try to get it as tight as you can, because again this will relax a little bit as you come to tie it, but will also relax when your Phormium tenax rose dries out. Easier. So we started off with a length of Phormium tenax. We wove it to create a ribbon, a straightish ribbon, but one that goes off to the side. We then folded it, and if you think that's too chunky, why not split down your Phormium and just do the same thing but with half width. And then it's the good old Phormium tenax rose, remembering that your tufty bits at the end need to find their way down to the main stem. So remember my pencil trick and find where your plug hole is. Are you going to have a go with this leaf manipulation projects I've shown you today? If you do, why not post a photograph in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World? And also, you might be interested to know that I run a monthly online flower arranging class, and I'll leave a link to how you can sign up to Zoom Flower Club and also to my Facebook group in the description underneath this video. That's all for me for now, and I'll see you again another time.